Defense attorney Daniel Cross had reviewed hundreds of case files in his career, but this one stopped him cold. It was supposed to be a routine pretrial review: thefts, no violence, minor charges. He opened the digital folder, scrolled through the discovery documents, and froze when he saw it. His client's name, Lucas Reed, appeared again, not in this case, but inside a completely different file number. The name sat buried deep in an evidence log tied to another defendant, another crime, another year. Cross double-checked the header, case 418B, State versus Marin, unrelated, sealed for 2 years. He leaned back, confusion replacing fatigue. How does my client's name end up inside a closed file? He called his paralegal, Nina. "Pull archive 418B, he said. "I need the full chain of custody forms." "That's sealed, sir. You'd need a judge's order." "Then file the request now, and check who last accessed it." Minutes later, she called back, voice tight. "Accessed yesterday from the district attorney's office." Cross's pulse steadied, his instinct kicking in. "By who?" "Assistant DA Harper," she said. "Same prosecutor handling your current case." That couldn't be coincidence. Harper's office was meticulous. She didn't touch archived files unless she needed leverage. He turned the monitor toward the window's reflection, studying the metadata again. The inserted page looked authentic: scanned, police notes, time-stamped, signed by Harper herself. But one line didn't belong. Under witness reference, it read, "Reed, observation not disclosed." He whispered it aloud. Observation not disclosed. Someone had tied Lucas Reed to an older investigation without listing him as a suspect or witness, a quiet link that shouldn't exist. He opened his notebook and wrote a single question. Was my client framed or recycled? The sound of city traffic outside faded as he stared at the screen. This wasn't just a clerical mistake, it was breadcrumb. And if the DA's office had placed it there, it meant someone wanted him to find it or wanted him to stop looking. The courthouse hallways buzzed with the morning rush of clerks and officers, but Daniel Cross moved through them like a man chasing a shadow. He had filed hundreds of motions before, but this one felt different, dangerous even. By the time he reached the records division, Nina was waiting with a stack of printed logs. "They approved partial access," she said, "but only to the custody sheet, not the evidence itself." "Let's see it." She handed him the pages. The top line listed the chain of possession for case 418B, State versus Marin. The evidence box had been checked out twice in the past 6 months. The first, by the DA's archive manager, routine. The second, last week, by Assistant DA Harper. Cross flipped to the back page. In the notes column beside her signature were 3 words: copied, returned intact. He looked at Nina. "Copied what?" "There's no description," she said, "but look at this. The return timestamp is before the checkout time." Cross scanned the line again. She was right. The digital system showed returned 9:42 a.m. and checked out 9:47 a.m. "That's impossible," he muttered, "unless someone edited the system log after the fact." He took out his phone and dialed Harper's office. She answered on the 3rd ring, her tone casual. "Counselor Cross, you're up early." "I had a question about one of your archive pulls, case 418B. Why was my client's name listed in it?" "That's privileged material. You shouldn't even know it exists." "I know. Which is why I'm asking. His name doesn't belong there." "Then maybe your client's past is more complicated than he told you," Harper replied, her tone tightening. "Drop the request, Daniel. That file isn't your concern." The call ended before he could answer. He stared at the phone, the unease in his chest deepening. Harper was hiding something, not for the court, but for herself. Nina leaned over the desk. "You think this is a mistake?" "No," he said quietly. "I think we just tripped over someone's shortcut." He gathered the papers into a neat stack. "If Harper wants me to drop it, it means whatever's in that archive connects directly to our case and to her." As he walked toward the elevator, he didn't notice the camera above the doorway blinking once, recording him leaving the room. Someone else was already watching how far he'd go. Daniel Cross sat in his office long after sunset, the city lights bleeding through the blinds. The documents from the archive lay scattered across his desk, annotated in red ink. He'd gone over every name, every timestamp, every digital ID, and one small note kept drawing his eye. In the lower corner of page 3, just under the file stamp, someone had scribbled a short reminder in blue pen. "Reed's testimony, keep separate." It wasn't typed, it wasn't part of the official record, and it wasn't Harper's handwriting. Cross tapped the paper with his pen. Who else handled this file before her? Nina, who had stayed late, checked the metadata log again. The only other person listed was a clerk named Preston Hale. He was reassigned last month, Internal Audit Division. "Get me his contact number." "Already tried," Nina said. "He resigned 3 weeks ago. No forwarding address." Cross sat back. Of course he did. He opened his laptop and pulled up the court database again, searching Reed testimony. No results. He tried Marin. The screen flashed a restricted access notice. Nina frowned. They scrubbed it. Cross sighed. Not scrubbed. Hidden. He closed the laptop, reached for his coat and motioned to the file. "We're going to the DA's office." "Now?" "Now," he said. The building was quiet when they arrived, security lights humming softly, the reception desk empty. Cross knew the risks. Unauthorized access to a government system could end his career. But if Harper was burying evidence, she was crossing that same line already. They took the elevator to the 8th floor. The records room was dark, except for the blue glow of a single monitor. Cross stepped closer. The screen displayed an open folder labeled Archive Restore Temp. Inside were dozens of duplicate files, each with a new label, Adjusted Version. And there it was, Case 418B again, last modified 3 days ago by user A.HIA.Harper. Nina whispered, "She's rewriting the old cases." Cross clicked open one file. The contents loaded slowly. Scanned testimony sheets. But at the bottom of the page, highlighted in yellow, was a line that froze him completely. Witness, Lucas Reed. Statement redacted. Per agreement. He whispered, "Agreement?" Nina's voice trembled. "That's your client. Why would his testimony be redacted from a case 2 years before he was arrested?" Cross stared at the glowing screen. Because he wasn't a defendant then. He was a witness. And now, it seemed, someone had made sure that part of his past disappeared. The next morning, Daniel Cross met his client at the detention center. Lucas Reed looked exhausted, hands clasped, eyes hollow, dark circles carved beneath them. Cross laid the printed page on the table between them. "Lucas, this is from an old case. 2 years ago. You were listed as a witness. Why didn't you tell me that?" Lucas's gaze shifted to the paper, then back to Cross. "Because I was told never to." "By who?" "The same person who said they'd keep me safe if I stayed quiet." Cross leaned forward. "Lucas, you're facing serious charges now. Whoever told you that, what did they want you to keep quiet about?" Lucas rubbed his palms together. "There was a warehouse fire in 21. Everyone thought it was an accident, but it wasn't. I saw who started it. It was a cop." Cross froze. "You're sure?" Lucas nodded. "I gave a statement to an investigator named Preston Hale. He said it would stay sealed. Then a week later, I lost my job, my apartment, and 2 people started following me. That's when Harper came. Harper? She said the case was closed and my name would never appear anywhere. But she made me sign something first, said it was a confidentiality agreement to protect me. I didn't read it. I just wanted it to stop. Cross's pen stopped moving. And now that statement's gone. Lucas's voice cracked. She said it would keep me out of danger. Now I'm sitting here, and she's the one trying to convict me. Cross gathered the papers slowly, his mind racing. Harper had buried a witness, erased his testimony, and turned him into a defendant in a completely different case. He stood. Lucas, I need you to tell me everything you remember about that fire and the cop who started it. Lucas hesitated. If I do, it'll come back to me. It already has, Cross said. By the time he left the detention center, his phone was vibrating nonstop. Missed calls, all from unknown numbers. When he finally answered one, a familiar voice spoke. Daniel, Harper said calmly, you're making a mistake. That file wasn't meant for you to find. Cross's grip tightened. Then maybe you should have hidden it better. A pause. Then, be careful. You're building a case that no one wants reopened. The line went dead. Cross lowered the phone, eyes fixed ahead. Harper wasn't just cleaning old records. She was protecting the one name Lucas hadn't dared to say yet, the officer who had set that fire.
The courthouse felt different that morning. Quieter, heavier. Daniel Cross arrived early, coffee in hand, the USB drive with Lucas Reed's erased testimony tucked inside his coat pocket. He'd barely slept. The evidence was enough to demand a full review, but it also meant walking straight into a storm. Harper wasn't just defending the system, she was part of its machinery. When the hearing began, she was already seated at the prosecution table, calm, professional, unreadable. "Ready to proceed, counselor?" the judge asked. Cross stood. "Your Honor, before we continue, I need to submit supplemental evidence for consideration." He handed the clerk a sealed envelope. This includes a copy of a redacted testimony file from Case 418B showing my client, Lucas Reed, acted as a witness in a previous investigation, an investigation overseen by Assistant District Attorney Harper. A murmur swept the room. Harper didn't flinch, but her jaw tightened. "Objection," she said evenly. "That material is privileged and irrelevant to this case." Cross didn't blink. "Relevance will become clear, Your Honor. The document was removed from the official archive. Its absence directly relates to the credibility of the prosecution's case against Mr. Reed." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Removed?" Cross nodded. "By an internal user with administrative access. Metadata logs show the edits originated from the DA's office last month." The courtroom fell silent. Harper adjusted her papers with slow precision. "Are you suggesting I tampered with evidence?" "I'm suggesting someone did, and the edits benefited your current case." Harper's voice hardened. "You're playing with fire, counselor." Cross leaned forward. "No, I'm putting it out." The judge cleared his throat. "Both of you, approach." They met at the bench, their voices low. Cross could feel Harper's stare on him, calm, practiced, dangerous. She spoke first. "You don't know what you're walking into." He met her eyes. "Then maybe it's time someone did." The judge reviewed the envelope silently for a moment, then sighed. "The court will recess for 48 hours. The authenticity of this document must be verified." Harper didn't say another word as the gavel struck. Outside, Cross stepped into the hallway. The air felt colder than before. Nina joined him holding her phone. "Daniel, we have a problem." She turned the screen toward him. It was a news alert. Warehouse fire case from 2021 reopened. Possible link to current trial. Cross's chest tightened. The name under investigation glared back in bold type. Lieutenant Dean Harper. The truth had finally surfaced, not because of the system, but in spite of it. He exhaled, steady, exhausted. They hid him for 2 years. But paper never forgets.